Hallelujah. If I can be heard, press 4. If I can be heard, press 4. Hallelujah. Kaddish di Rabbanan. Yikadal va yikadesh shemei rabah. V'almadi b'rakiroteh v'yimelech malkuteh. V'chayechunu v'yamichunu v'chayedu kol beit Yisrael b'agalav v'zman kari v'yimeru. Amen. Yehi shmei rabba mavorach le'olam ul me'amaya. Yit barak v'yishtabach. V'yipa'ar v'yit romam v'yit naseh. V'yit chadar v'yit alei v'yit halal. Shemei l'kudashah berechu. Ve'ela min kol barakata v'ashtirota. Tush bechata v'nechmata. Damiran ba'ama v'yimeru. Amen. Al Israel ve'al Rabbanan, ve'al Tamidehon, ve'al Kol Tamidehon, ve'al Kol Man Dasakin Borita, Di Batara B'Dein B'Kolata V'Yata, Yehelachon Ulchon Slama Rabach, Hine V'Chasada V'Rachamin V'Chayin Arakin, Zona Roicha, Ufarkana Men Kadam Abuhun Di B'Shemaya, V'Meru, Amen. Yehei Slama Rabah Men Shemaya, V'Chayin Tovim Aleinu, ve'al Kol Israel, V'Meru, Amen. Osei Shalom B'Mromav, Hu Barachamav, Yasei Shalom Aleinu, ve'al Kol Israel, V'Meru. Amen. Magnified and sanctified may he be, his great name be in the world he created by his will. May he establish his kingdom in your lifetime and in the lifetime of all the house of Israel, swiftly and soon. And let us say Amen. May his great name be blessed forever in all time. Blessed and praised, esteemed and exalted, raised and honored, uplifted and lauded be the name of the Holy One. Blessed be he, beyond any blessing, song, praise, and consolation uttered in the world, and let us say Amen. To Israel, to the teachers, their disciples, and their disciples' disciples, and to all who engage in the study of Torah, here or elsewhere, may there come to them in you great peace, favor, kindness, and compassion, long life, ample sustenance, and deliverance from our Father in heaven, and let us say Amen. May there be great peace from heaven and good life for us and all the house of Israel, and let us say Amen. May he who makes peace in his high places, in his compassion, make peace for us and all the house of Israel. And let us say Amen. To the Zachanim, the Imot, the Morim, the Akim, Akiot, and Yeladim, I greet you all in the words of peace, Shabbat, Shalom Aleichem, praying that this finds you all in good spirits and in good health on this Shabbat day. We want to also offer a hearty Yashar Koach to the Morim and to Zachain Asiel for this week's reading of the Parsha Chayei Sarah, and this week's Haftarah, which is giving us the conclusion of the life of Melech David, the King David ben Yeshai, son of Jesse. Also to the offerings that we have just received from the Morim, Torah Rabbah, as well. Yah's waiting on us, Moreim 70. Todah Rabbah for your stimulating light and fire up under our pockets all the time. Staying on my head. Todah Rabbah for your offering. Moreim 70, Elder Asiel. Todah Rabbah for your collabo. Very, very profound, very insightful, very powerful. Hallelujah. Want to just start with a couple of reflections, historical, current events. Of course, we know some of us are aware that Cuba's revolutionary leader, Fidel Castro, has passed at the age of 90, as he greeted many of his cabinet yesterday, last night, and letting them know that his departure is near. Very powerful how that took place. Very even, almost kind of, not saying he was, a Torah-based man, but interesting how he, summoned people to him and told them goodbye. Very interesting that he knew that this was his time. So, you don't see that happening a lot. And Fidel Castro, I believe, in my heart of hearts, was a true revolutionary. He was one who sought justice. He was one who sought peace. And there's a lot of different sentiments about Fidel Castro, even from Cubans. I work with a Cuban who is not at all pleased with Fidel Castro. There's a lot of people who are not pleased with Fidel Castro, but I do believe Fidel Castro, along with Che Guevara, were very revolutionary in their efforts to bring that island, Cuba, a more liberating paradigm as opposed to dealing with the democratic banana republic under the United States. So I want to ask that the Most High allows for Fidel Castro to rest in peace for his labor of love for his people. So much to really say, but let me go ahead and get into my offering today. I did want to just make that point known. But M70 was asking a question earlier. Do we need think tanks? Is it necessary for us to organize in these days and times? Well, I find it very essential for our people to organize now to overcome, which is the name of my offering. Organize now to overcome. I used to tell my students when I work with youth, if you don't have a plan for your life, somebody else does. If you're not planning out what you need to do, what steps you need to take in order to secure the future for you and yours, well, you can best believe that there are others who have plans for you. And so, on that note, let's take a look at this first offering. I got several articles I just want to get into today. Let's get into this right here. Organize now to overcome, because our enemy, you can best believe, is tirelessly organizing, is ceaselessly working to bring forth some reality for the people who they have continuously exploited. And the name of this article is entitled Details of Donald Trump's New Deal for Black America. But as you go down more, you'll see that it says Donald Trump's plan for Black America is a joke. It is a joke. Let me get a 4 upon your receipt of this particular article, and I will get this started very shortly. The president-elect's, it says, just give me a moment, please. This is running slow again. The president-elect's plan. Are you serious? Come on. I think the enemy knows that this part is crucial, and this the computers, it's been acting great all day. But the president-elect's so-called New Deal for African Americans is replete with stereotypes and devoid of actual policy. I'm not going to get into the video. You can watch that video on your own as you have more time. But after months of ignoring the concerns of African American voters and using inflammatory language, now it wants to jump all ahead. Just give me one moment, please. So after months of ignoring the concerns of African American voters and using inflammatory and racially charged rhetoric to reference minorities, Donald Trump decided late in the 2016 presidential campaign to court the black vote with no true policy initiative and more offensive rhetoric. Then suddenly, just before naming Steve Bannon, a member of the alt-right, as his administration's chief strategist, and that was just covered, the alt-right, we'll get into that some more, details of Trump's plan for the African Americans emerged. The 10-point plan, dubbed Donald J. Trump's New Deal for Black America, detailed a number of what we can assume is part of the president-elect's policy initiative to be the president for all Americans. Vox reported, given Trump's decade-long history of expressions of racism, I would even add eugenics and allegations of racial discrimination, it's unsurprising the document is both bursting with stereotypes and lacking in substance. Upon further review of Donald Trump's New Deal for Black America, it would appear as though his once elusive plan for African Americans is a list of cursory declarations about a set of Trump's previously stated views, lazily pitched to a black audience. A list of the 10 bullet points detailed in Trump's plan include: 1. Great education through school choice. 2. Safe communities. 3. Equal justice under the law. 4. Tax reforms to create jobs and lift up people and communities. 5. Financial reforms to expand credit to support new job creation. 6. Trade that works for American workers. 7. Protection from illegal immigration. 8. New infrastructure investment. 9. Protect the African American church. And 10. America First foreign policy. So you can see that these are just a listing of some of the views or some of the plans that Donald J. Trump has for America. But the question is, what does that mean? How do we decipher this code that he has implement or is planning to implement for Black America? What's the plan? Well, although the alt-right, and particularly Richard Spencer, has disavowed Steve Bannon as a member of the alt-right, we know that there is some affinity that exists, and there is a nexus that exists in those particular individuals. So when you access this next article, which comes to us from the Occidental Observer, which actually the founder and editor-in-chief of the Occidental Observer was actually on a panel discussion at the NPI, the National Policy Institute's conference this past weekend. But this article here is from an Andrew Joyce. He's a PhD. And he says, what next? The alt-right in the age of Trump. I think it's important as we organize and seek to overcome that we are aware of our enemy's agenda. If you agree with that, give me a 1. If we are not aware of our enemy's agenda, we will find ourselves very much disconcerted in our effort and attempt to free ourselves from their shackles. The alt-right in the age of Trump. Andrew Joyce starts out with a quote from Richard Cohen. We can't afford to take these statements as the ravings of extremists on the fringes of society. They are now at the gates. It was the best of times, and for our hostile elites, it was the worst of times. In a movement normally starved of optimism, every ounce of excitement and positivity should be wrung from the victorious march of Trumpism. Whatever may lie ahead, it will remain forever true that Donald Trump's capture of the White House represented a seismic electoral triumph for our ideas. This is a triumph of the alt-right, the neo-Nazis, the Klansmen, the Southern Confederates. It is a triumph that has left our shocked adversaries, they're clearly telling who your adversaries are, for the time being, in tactical disarray. Establishment, because there was no plan to counter this. Establishment newspapers are replete with the panicked and muffled grieving of irrelevant, discredited journalists. So this is what they're called the Lügenpresse, the lying press. That was a Nazi Germany buzzword that you were seeing take place today in the discrediting of the mainstream media. And we know that the mainstream media is very watered down, okay, and owned by several families. But now they're going to really rev up that particular propaganda and that particular ideology. Like the last resort of a teenage attention seeker, several of the urban centers of American liberal modernity have been reduced to neurotic self-harm. Portland and Indianapolis spasm with tiny tribes of shabby canutes who busy themselves nightly in primitive attempts to hold back the cultural tide with tossed bricks and burned trash cans. The authentic and dignified heart of America beats on, hopeful and expectant. The alt-right, no less surprised than any of the actors in this great drama, stands amidst the wreckage of its opponents. Possessed with unparalleled momentum, it is, however, presented with the question of tremendous importance. What next? Before setting any firm goals or next steps, a useful preliminary measure must be the avoidance of becoming embroiled in an unhealthy focus on whether or not Donald Trump will stick to this or that campaign pledge. And we know that Trump is going to really just be Trump. Now, he may serve this particular ideology much more as it relates to go about accomplishing the desires of the hegemonic structure of America. But the working class is going to be betrayed. And even some of these alt-right members are going to be betrayed. You can be assured of that. Because politicians are cynical, as M70 used that word to describe selfish interests. Okay? They are very aligned with the hegemony that is geared towards making the fat fatter. Continuing on, already comment sections of various alt-right websites are beginning to fill with the crippling and all too familiar sights of and sounds of skepticism, pessimism, and suspicion. You've been had has been the resort of choice for those who see in every Trump staffing choice or rumored staffing choice the shadow of Israel and the betrayal of tens of millions of voters. In this vision of things, Donald Trump hijacked our ideas merely to coast to power. Ensconced in the White House, Trump will proceed to use that power for purely selfish reasons, abandoning every pledge to the people in his own vainglorious pursuit of power for the sake of power, mammon, and the interests of those in his inner circle. In this bleak eye-or vision of our present situation, we are probably even worse off under Trump than we are under Obama. We've been had. This is the alt-right speaking. Such an attitude misunderstands both the nature and motivation of alt-right support for Donald Trump. It also deprives the movement of agency and responsibility. Against it, I contend that we must avoid becoming overly invested in the fact of the Trump presidency in either the positive or negative sense. Maintaining such a focus is not only intellectually wrong-footed, but would risk similar myopic miscalculations to those that have hobbled post-Brexit Britain. Look at Britain today, a nation that has allowed the fact of Brexit to predominate to such an extent that the greater issues of race and immigration have already been lost sight of. Yep. The British people voted for Brexit merely as a means to an end, the end being the reclamation of control over the borders and demography of the nation. But the British have been lazy in victory. On a daily basis, they allow the debate to wallow in the realms of judicial intricacies and trade agreements. Brexit is thus both a predecessor and an admonition to post-Trump America. America voted for Trump as a means to an end, and it must not be allowed to become overly focused on the advent of the Trump presidency. Just 1 week ago, tens of millions of white voters marked their ballots not for a TV billionaire, but for a greater national vision that rejected political correctness and involved redrawing immigration and economic policy in line with their interests. These interests are what we must always return to. Trump is not where we began. He will not be where we end. Our ideas are older than his campaign, and they reach much farther into our national destiny. Identity politics is central to this particular movement. And a few months ago, we covered the political ideology of identity politics. And we asked the question, is identity politics viable for Hebrew Israelites? And I argue undeniably so. Our identity politics, however, are different because we identify according to a spirit, not just flesh. Flesh is important. I'm not denying that. Ethnicity is important. Culture is important, undeniably. But at the end of the day, what transcends all of that is the spirit of justice, the spirit of truth, the spirit of righteousness. These are the identity politics that we must embody and embrace and embody. Continuing on. So rather than seeing Trump as a direct political vehicle for our ideas, it may be more helpful for the pessimists and indeed the optimists in our ranks to imagine that during the last year, the Trump train and the alt-right have been hitched together, traveling on the same track and in roughly the same direction, though with different final destinations. During that time, the Trump carriage has provided us with a powerful engine, greater momentum, and more passengers. And we know that the militia groups, we know that the hate groups, the white nationalist groups have proliferated, and their numbers have exponentially increased in this particular election. Continuing on. So I propose that rather than waste energy fretting about the trajectory and final destination of the Trump train, which would in any event never fully satisfy our vision of the future, we would do significantly better to focus on the symbolic benefits of our relationship, that we continue to derive momentum from the Trump engine while gently inviting our increased numbers of fellow travelers to join us in our carriage. Quite apart from policy achievements on how a Trump cabinet looks, Trumpism is indisputably a net gain for our movement. The alt-right and its ideas preceded the Trump campaign. The longevity of the alt-right will surpass many future presidents. Why? Because they are inculcating these principles into their children. What are we doing? How are we organizing? How are we mobilizing? How are we uniting? These are the questions that we must ask, and we must seriously wrestle with and make a manifest reality in order to overcome. More crucially, we should have remembered that we have been struggling for cultural change a lot longer than we have been struggling to get one man into the White House. A huge cultural shift is taking place, and that is worth celebrating. They're celebrating this victory because they know it opens a door for their ideology and their issues and their interests to be trumped and trumpeted. Okay? But I'm not going to continue this article. You can read this article here for your own. I want to show that this is what their plan is. They're going to organize and mobilize around the Trump administration. They're going to exploit it and use it for their interests. We should be doing the same thing. We should be organizing and mobilizing and unifying around this particular administration internationally, because this has an international effect. If we don't think that it has an international effect, well, we'll be fooling ourselves. And so we need to really consider how to move forward in light of what is just taking place. All right. Let me get this next article here up. Actually, it's a video. It's a 6-minute video that comes to us from YouTube. I'm going to have to read some of it because it is spoken in German, being that it is a German link. So, give me one moment as this is loading. I'm just going to give you all the hard copy, and we're going to go to it, and we're going to play it in the room. The name of the article is called "The Leader is the Party, and the Party is the Leader." Listen to the ideology that they're expressing. When you access this article, give me a 4. I'm going to count down from 5 and play this here. 5 to 0, I'm going to count down and do. So when you access this article, please and thank you, give me a 4, acknowledging your receipt of it. And I'm going to go ahead and play this article and read the subtitles, the English subtitles, so that you all can be on board with us. So counting down from 5. Here we go. Are you all ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Push play. Now listen to what he's saying. My German youth, he's going after the youth, just as we are gathered here. My young comrades, as part of the life of the people, so also must be gathered here the entire people. It was, alas, not always so. People did not want to understand each other. Each thought only for himself. Listen to his rhetoric. At best, his class alone. We have been witnesses to the consequences of this aberration of the spirit. This man was not crazy. In your youth, you must safeguard what you possess. The great feeling of comradeship, of being part of the group. If you hold on to this, no power in the world will be able to do this. You will be one people bound together. As tightly as now, as German youth, our only hope is the courage and faith of our people. You, my youth, are indeed the living guarantee, the living future of Germany. Nor empty formalism. Mind skipping a little bit. No, you are the blood of our blood. He's going to say the flesh of our flesh, the spirit of our spirit, he says. You are the continuation of our people. May Germany live, and may her future which lives in you be praised. Germany, hail. Now this is what was just said at the MPI conference. He says here, not our business leaders, not our professors and scholars, not soldiers, not artists, not philosophers, thinkers, and poets have pulled out our people back from the abyss, but only the political fighting of this party. Know the mind of your enemies. Look at the principles that they're using, because they're universal principles. He just distorted it. The people are losing it right now. They're so enthralled with his words, the energy by which he is giving off. It's action. It's just the beginning. Its continuity is important, however, will be judged by posterity. The future generations will be judged on how well this is carried over. Yes, indeed, he did. But I have to take up position in the context against the thinking of the bourgeois, which often puts into phrases. Yes, leader, yes, but the party, that's something else. Oh, very much so, Elder. No, gentlemen, the leader is the party, and the party is the leader. Do you understand that concept that he's expressing? The leader is the party, and the party is the leader. There's an affinity there. There's a oneness. There's a representative, symbolic representation of the leader and the party, because they are one. And he did an excellent job, wickedly assembling and uniting Germany. Wait till Trump gets done. Just as I feel only as part of the party feels only as a part of me. When I will close my eyes, I don't know, but the party will go on living and stand upon all people, upon the weak and the strong, that it will shape the future of this nation towards a bright future. I'm going to go ahead and stop that and go to my next article. But I just wanted to leave that with you all. This is the mind that they have. They're relying on the youth. It is an indispensable part of their movement to have the youth garnered, steeped, groomed in their culture, in their ideologies, so that they can continue this forever. Well, what are we doing? Are we doing that? Are we organizing our families? Are we organizing ourselves as individuals? Are we organized? Do we have the order that is required for us to not only see clear, but also to move into the clear and do what is necessary for our victory? When you access this next article from GermanForeignPolicy.com, give me a 4. Because this is a continuum. They didn't lose the Second World War. They only went underground. And we know that Trump is very pro-Germanic. This German blood, he said, there's something special about this German blood. Donald Trump knows very well what his roots and his origins are, what his legacy is. Okay? This is an essential part of the West. An essential part of the West. And you see the two countries or the two cities that are highlighted in this particular report. Washington, Berlin. Okay, this is their own report, the German Foreign Policy. The writer says, after Donald Trump's victory in the U.S. presidential elections, the German government announced that it will continue its close cooperation with the United States and is calling for enhancing Germany's position in the transatlantic relationship. Enhancing Germany's position in its relationship with the United States. They're going to get a little more cozy, a little more intimate. Chancellor Angela Merkel offered President-elect Donald Trump close cooperation on the basis of particular conditions. Jürgen Hart, the German government's coordinator of transatlantic relations, listen to the offices they got, spoke of the necessity for us Europeans, and particularly for us Germans, to assume more responsibility. This responsibility would grow under a U.S. President Trump, and this concerns all instruments of foreign and security policy for their future, securing their future, securing their survival. The call for more German influence reiterates positions recently voiced in Berlin's foreign policy establishment, demanding not to leave stability policy proposals up to the USA, but to independently evaluate how to shape the future global order. German Defense Minister Ursula von der Leyen and chairman of the Munich Security Conference, Wolfgang Ischinger, are linking this demand to a call for significantly increasing the German military budget. Now, after World War II, and when they were in Kiev, they decided that they would never again allow for Germany's military to be rearmed and to have a budget. But here we are, almost 70-something years later, looking at Germany's resurgence at a very precarious time. Lost control. After Donald Trump's victory in the U.S. presidential elections, the German government announced that it will continue its close cooperation with the United States and is calling for Germany to strengthen its position in the transatlantic relationship. In Berlin, initial reactions to Trump's victory were marked by big surprise because not only for the opinion-forming media, but also polling institutes in the United States had predicted Hillary Clinton's victory right up to the end. This was a gross miscalculation that has its parallels on the European continent. Listen to that, because the far right in Europe is taking its position as well. France saw Sarkozy get left out by a Fillon. Okay, so we're seeing the far right, Greece coming up, the Ukraine, Poland. You can name all these European countries where you can see this far right movement, this alt right, which Richard Sherman spoke of. We got a link with Europe. or the diaspora of Israel has to link and organize. If we're not linking and organizing, what are we doing? That's the question that we have to ask ourselves. And we need to unify and gather. Okay? Continuing on. This was a gross miscalculation that had its parallels on the European continent, such as the Brexit referendum and the FPO's success in Austria's presidential elections. It also shows that the ruling establishment has not only lost its control over large sections of the population, but it's not even conscious of their sentiments. Therefore, in their initial reactions, German Defense Minister Ursula von der Leyen and leading German foreign policy experts called the U.S. election result a huge shock. On par. This morning, Jürgen Hart, coordinator of the transatlantic relations, already raised the demand to significantly enhance Germany's... Excuse me one second. Come on, this thing is moving super slow. Still loading. So to enhance Germany's position within the framework of the transatlantic alliance. Now that transatlantic, anytime I hear transatlantic, I can't help but think of the triangle trade, the enslavement of our ancestors. And they know this well as well. The transatlantic partnership is and will continue to be an indispensable pillar of German foreign policy, Hart declared. We will extend our hand to the new U.S. administration and hope that we can build on the close and trusting cooperation of the past. They're organizing people. This particularly includes the close cooperation within the NATO alliance. And we know NATO is going through some restructuring as well. We'll see what Trump decides to do from America's standpoint, or what he will be told to do with NATO, shall I say, as this all comes to a head now. So there is, however, the necessity for us Europeans, and particularly for us Germans, to assume more responsibility and to throw more weight onto the balance, Hart explained. This responsibility will grow under the U.S. President Trump and concerns all instruments of foreign and security policy. The intention of enhancing Germany's position, and if possible, would be on par with the USA, has already been expressed in the statements by the German Chancellor and Foreign Minister. Merkel underlined her offer to closely work with President-elect Donald Trump on the basis of particular conditions, common values, okay? Common values, like nationality, like race, okay? Steinmeier was quoted saying, just as Germans in the past, we have learned a lot from our American friends. We should now give encouragement to our American friends. All the eugenic plans came from Margaret Sanger in Germany. They were inspired by Margaret Sanger. So they got a lot of inspiration from America. Shaping the world order. Isn't this your job? Isn't this our job, Israel? To shape the world order? Demands from within Berlin's foreign policy establishment that Germany's enhanced position within the framework of the transatlantic alliance have become louder over the past few days and weeks. For example, according to a recently published analysis of the German Institute for International and Security Affairs, global policy intentions currently have only little prospects of success without the participation of the American hegemon. Nevertheless, it is indispensable to ponder the reaction should U.S. behavior become counterproductive from a German perspective. So they're anticipating both aspects of it. So wouldn't it be wise for us to consider doing the same? The best and the worst, prepare for the best, expect the worst. You see what I'm saying? And be prepared to respond to that as well. Without the will to argue with the U.S. government, many options for gaining influence are excluded from the outset. In the future, Germany and Europe should not leave the stability policy proposals up to the USA, continues the analysis. The transatlantic relationship, as well as how to shape the future global order, must be independently evaluated. I wanted to just leave you all with that. I'm not going to read any more from that myself, but I wanted to leave you all with that because I find it very important that we be aware of how this internationally is taking shape as well. And now that I've gotten Europe and America out the way, let's focus on ourselves. I want to start with this. Oh, very much so, Adonai. Very much so. This is an Adinkra symbol. The Adinkra symbols come from the Ashanti. The Ashanti are Israelites in Ghana. When you access that, give me a 4. The West African wisdom, okay? This is a symbol. And this symbol is called Boa Mina Mi Imoa Wo. Help me and let me help you. This is the mentality we need to have with one another in organizing. Help me and let me help you. A symbol of cooperation and interdependence. This is what we need right now. We need cooperation and interdependence of our families, of our communities, and of our nation. This is the only way that we're ever really going to overcome. Now, let's look at how this is going to impact the African continent. So when you access this article that I'm preparing to send us, if my computer cooperates, please give me a 4 acknowledging your receipt of said article. This comes to us from the African Executive. It's called A Great America and the Challenges for Africa. This was published on November 23rd of this year in the African Executive. And give me one moment as I see who the author of this particular article is. James Shikwati. James Shikwati. He says that President-elect Donald Trump's call to make America great again endeared him to the American electorate. A great and winning America should worry Africa. So we should be worried. If America's seeking to become great again, Africa and its entire diaspora should be concerned. When the United States of America was at its apex in the global power chain, the country had a dim view of Africa. The U.S. perceived the African continent as largely characterized by coups and chaos. The alternative perception of Africa as a possible future motor for global economies started taking shape when America's overwhelming sway on global events receded. It receded. But now that the call to make America great again is being proclaimed, Africans should be concerned. When America was great, Pax Americana, it deployed its overwhelming power to shape global systems. The country was once the factory of the world. Its high technology at the Silicon Valley revolutionized the world. In the years 1970 to 2000, America was a lead contributor at 21.2% to the global economic output. During the same period, African countries registered mostly negative growth that was as low as negative 1.5%. It is during this period that entrenched the prevailing warped mindset that solutions to challenges facing Africa must emanate from outside, not from inside Africa or from African people, but we need to do this on our own. Or we need to help you do this. This is what the West is proclaiming. When America's position as a key driver of global economy started declining in the year 2000, its mindset towards Africa slightly changed, as evidenced through the enactment of the African Growth and Opportunity Act. America's position as a key contributor to the global economy is projected to continue to fall to 14.9% by 2018 as China, a newcomer, overtakes it. How did China come up so fast, so powerfully? What did they do? Well, maybe we need to go examine Mao Zedong and the Cultural Revolution of China to consider what China did. Because I can tell you just in brief, they closed their doors to all outsiders. And they focused on themselves, despite the views that they received from the world. They got their ship together. Okay? America's closest rival, China, contributed only 4.1% to the global economy in the 70s, rising to 15.6% in 2015. The Chinese contribution to global economy is projected to hit 17.2% by 2025. The period between the years 2000 and 2016 has led to a significant narrative change on Africa from one of a desolate continent to one that offers great opportunity. In just over a little bit of a decade, Africa has gone from dismal to now promising. Okay, historically, a great America has had both positives and negatives. A great America ended the Second World War in Europe. Well, that's what we're led to believe. In Africa, it indirectly triggered the end of political colonization. It also facilitated an interconnected world, thereby offering a platform for prosperity to millions across the globe. The downside to a great America was forcing America's will on countries, especially in Africa and the Middle East, and triggering the financial crisis that shook global markets in 2008. Africa is a low production zone. This is something that we need to organize around. Why is Africa a low production zone? Why don't we produce? Africa has all the resources in the world, but it's a low production zone. That doesn't make sense. On average, the continent contributes only 0.1% of the global economic output. This low productivity pushes Africa's vibrant and youthful, there are those youth again, population to seek opportunities in developed economies. Instead of a wall against migrants, Trump should seek to enhance successful African-owned enterprises to reduce the migration pressure that has become a campaign issue in the U.S. and many Western capitals. Africans should be worried. A winning America may not want to amplify and relegate the continent into a war zone for competing geopolitics. It may want to make it more chaotic and more Kool-Aid. A winning America is likely to relax its regulatory environment since it may care less how it wins. This will be in contrast with the recent past U.S. effort to stem violence caused by quests for minerals on the continent. A notable example is the Dodd-Frank Financial Bill 2010 that requires U.S. companies to disclose source of minerals meant to dry up financing to militias in resource-rich countries such as the Democratic Republic of Congo, which stays embroiled in conflict because they want them resources. President-elect Donald Trump should push for Grow Africa scenario, both in terms of productivity and global participation, in order to give hope to the continent and the emerging New World Order. If Africa grows, it will offer markets and opportunities for the great America as well. My question is this, though. Why should we rely as African people for someone else to push for Grow Africa scenario when we need to do it ourselves? Why can't we collectively come together and make a reality for ourselves, as opposed to relying on someone else to put some policy in place? Why can't we do it ourselves? It seems as if we are too dependent on our oppressors to accomplish things for us, as opposed to being interdependent with one another, uniting and collectivizing so that we can go about accomplishing what we will. Up, you mighty race. You can accomplish what you will, in the words of the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey. But I want to go to one who was inspired by the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey and actually created an independent country in the throes of the colonial movement in Africa. His name being Kwame Nkrumah. This article is entitled, Nkrumah, We Must Unite Now or Perish. I mean, this is a simple choice, really, when you think about it. Unite or perish? You got two options. You can unite in this particular administration that we're about to face, or we can perish. The choice is yours. What do you want to do? Well, I'm one for not perishing. Therefore, I know that we need to unite. Hold on, for those of you who've given me a 4, let me get some other 4s from those who have received this article. In this picture, you can see the late Fidel Castro here with Kwame Nkrumah. So this is an excerpt from one of Nkrumah's speeches. And for some reason, my computer is running deliberately slow. Okay. Kwame Nkrumah, African Unity and Nkrumah, Pan-Africanism and Nkrumah, Neocolonialism in Africa, Africa and Industrialization. The following presentation is excerpted from the speech delivered by Kwame Nkrumah, Ghana's first president, on May 24th, 1963, at the inaugural meeting of the Organization of African Unity, the OAU. Excuse me, I got some stuff that's popping up and not allowing me to move and do what I need to do. Man, come on, let me do this. Work with me now. Which has since been succeeded by the African Union, or the AU, in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Now it wants to move all far and fast. Just give me one moment, please, as this is aligning. I'm trying to get where it needs to be so I can read this to us. Still loading for some reason. I'm just moving a little deliberate. But I want to thank each and every one of you all in this room for choosing to fellowship with us today here in Hebrew Vision. Truly, it is a pleasure for us to provide this information to you all, to inspire us to make moves, to not just receive this information. We don't want to play church here. We want to get this kingdom set up. So let me go ahead and find where this article picks up. It's still loading. Like, just stop. All right, he says, I am happy to be here in Addis Ababa on this most historic occasion. I bring with me the hopes and fraternal greetings of the government and people of Ghana. Our objective is African Union now. Please, just let me read. There is no time to waste. Excuse me, one second. Moving just a little bit, delayed, not letting me get to where I want to go. Where are you going? We must unite now or perish, he says. I am confident that by our concerted effort and determination, we shall lay here the foundations for a continental union of African states. A whole continent has imposed a mandate upon us to lay the foundation of our union at this conference. It is our responsibility to execute this mandate. I'm sorry. This is unbelievable. It is our responsibility to execute this mandate by creating here and now the formula upon which the requisite superstructure may be created. On this continent, it is not taking us long to discover that the struggle against colonialism does not end with the attainment of national independence. Independence is only a prelude. It is only a prelude to a new and more involved struggle for the right to conduct our own economic and social affairs. Independence leads to self-determination, but then you must protect that which you have, okay? To construct our society according to our aspirations, unhampered by crushing and humiliating neo-colonialist control and interference. From the start, we have been threatened with frustration, where rapid change is imperative, and with instability, where sustained effort and ordered rule are indispensable. No sporadic act nor pious resolution can resolve our present problems. Nothing will be of avail except the united act of a united Africa. We have already reached the stage where we must unite or sink into that condition which has made Latin America the unwilling and distressed prey of imperialism after 1.5 centuries of political independence. As a continent, we have emerged into independence in a different age, with imperialism grown stronger, more ruthless in experience, and more dangerous in its international associations. And this was in the 60s, people. So you know that it's gotten more sophisticated. Our economic advancement demands the end of colonialist and neo-colonialist domination of Africa. We must be focused on liberating the continent of Africa. This is our calling as Israelites as well, okay? Because we are the pineal gland of the continent of Africa. But just as we understood that the shaping of our national destinies required of each of us our political independence and bent all our strength to this attainment, so we must recognize that our economic independence resides in our African Union and requires the same concentration upon the political achievement. Help me and let me help you. This is what we need to understand. The unity of our continent, no less than our separate independence, will be delayed if indeed we do not lose it by hobnobbing with colonialism. If you're talking about getting all cozy with the Trump administration and giving him a chance, so to speak, you're done. African unity is above all a political kingdom which can only be gained by political means. This is the same thing with the kingdom of Yah, okay? And it's requiring us for unity. How good and how pleasant it is for brothers to dwell in what? In unity. This is what we need to understand. This is how we organize, we unite. We use political identity politics to unite. The social and economic development of Africa will come only within the political kingdom, not the other way around. If we don't establish the kingdom, nothing else is going to take place. It is not unity alone that can weld us into an effective force capable of creating our own progress and making our valuable contribution to world peace. Which independent African state, which of you here will claim that its financial structure and banking institutions are fully harnessed to its national development? We need resources, people. We need some sort of resources to carry out our plans. Money is not everything, but it's something, and we need to have resources, even if we create our own currency, which will claim that its mineral resources and human energies are available for its own national aspirations, which will disclaim a substantial measure of disappointment and disillusionment in its agricultural and urban development. Okay? How are we going to feed ourselves? How are we going to develop our urban landscape? These are things that we need to talk about as we organize in independent Africa. We are already re-experiencing the instability and frustration which existed under colonial rule. We are fast learning that political independence is not enough to rid us of the consequences of colonial rule. You got to change that mind. If that mind is still steeped under colonial rule, well then you're not going to change. The movement of the masses of the people of Africa for freedom from that kind of rule was not only a revolt against the conditions which it imposed. Our people supported us in our fight for independence because they believed that the African governments could cure the ills of the past in a way which could never be accomplished under colonial rule. Cure ills? Adonai says, when we, the united Hebrew nation, take our life in our own hands, we get Black Wall Street. When we don't, we get this, that, we suffer today, he says. I wholeheartedly agree. However, we also have to understand our vantage point. We can't do this in America. When you look at all the independent black communities that were established in America, they were all sabotaged because they don't want black success in white America. You cannot, nullify that reality. America is an institution. There are individuals in America who are for humanity, but as an institution, that trumps, pun intended, everything these individuals intend. There is a beast at work. It's a beast system. Continuing on. If therefore, now that we are independent, we allow the same conditions to exist that existed in colonial days, all the resentment which overthrew the colonialism will be mobilized against us. The resources are there. The plans are there. The blueprint is laid, people. It is for us to marshal them in the active service of our people. There it is right there. Serve your people. The key to organizing is to become a servant. And we'll get to that. Unless we do this by concerted efforts within the framework of our combined planning, we shall not progress at the tempo demanded by today's events and the mood of our people. The symptoms of our troubles will grow, and the troubles themselves will become chronic. It will then be too late for Pan-African unity to secure for us stability and tranquility in our labors for a continent of social justice and material well-being. Our continent, well, I'm just going to end off right there. You can read the rest of this article from this speech that Nkrumah gave, but that is crucial. We have to understand everything is in place for us. Yah has given us our leaders. He's given us Isaiah. He's given us Zechariah. He's given us Hosea. He's given us Ezra. He's given us Jeremiah. He's given us our leaders in the inspired word to carry out the mission. Are we heeding them? Do we listen to what they have told us to do? Yep. We can unite here, but we need to take all this energy and unity back home. We need to go back home. And I'm getting rolled to the break of dawn about being in captivity. And I need to be. Because this is not the place where I know Yah desires for me to be to carry out what Yah wants for me to carry out. This next article comes to us from the AAPRP, All African People's Revolutionary Party. Again, organize now to overcome. This article here, even as Hitler was talking about and he knew, the people are the supreme reference, the means and the end, the people. If we're not doing this for the people, if we are not altruistic, if we are not servant-like, remember, the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve. And he organized around that. And that's what we have to do as well. All right. On 11 November 2016, a march against the president of Guinea-Bissau and the undemocratic government took place. It went from the governmental palace, where the 15-day sit-in back in June 2016 occurred, to the front of the presidential palace. The 5-mile march and rally took place without any violence or delinquency. The theme of the demonstration was "The people are not trash." This is against the colonial governments in Africa. Guinea-Bissau has a puppet president. Okay? He says, "We are proud of the growing consciousness and discipline of our people." The message was clear. Return power to the PAIGC, and for the traitor president of Guinea-Bissau to resign and hold early elections to elect a faithful president of Guinea-Bissau who respects the people and the Constitution. There is more power in our hands than we really understand. There is more power that Yah has invested in us than we truly understand. And you can take a look at these pictures here. Okay? Politicos mediocres. Okay? This is what they're holding up in sign. They are all in the street seeking to get justice, organizing, mobilizing, doing what is required of them to let their puppet government know this is about us, the people. It's not about you, the president. You're the figurehead. Remember, this is even what Hitler said. The party, the leader is the party, and the party is the leader. There is a axiomatic, symbiotic relationship between party and people, and Yahushua exemplifies that best as our head. He says, what you do to the least of these, you do to me. What you do to the least of these, you do to me. Now, continuing this organization, this organizing. Let's go to Libya 360. You access this article here. Please give me a 4. This is another speech. I just wanted to show how movement is important, how organizing and unity and the focus on the people is crucial as it relates to our victory, to our overcoming. Remember, in Daniel 7, it says, and the government is given to the people. The reign is given to the people. The people. It didn't say to an individual, to the people, to the kingdom. We are Zion. We are the kingdom. This article here is entitled Omali Yeshitala, on the need to dismantle imperialism and white power. This is his address to the African nation, the Democrats, that he said lost, but the African People's Socialist Party won. This is by a L.A. in Manari Sifu, St. Petersburg, Florida. African People's Socialist Party Chairman Omali Yeshitala had a live stream session to address the African nation in the morning following the U.S. election process on November 8th. With Donald Trump emerging as winner against the highly poll favorite Hillary Clinton, all the polls said she was winning, though not by much. Chairman Omali left no stone unturned, offering keen insights and on-target analysis in a blistering 1 hour and 50-minute elocution so full of fire, he literally set the room ablaze with chants of Uhuru, Uhuru, which is the same thing as Heirut in Hebrew, liberation. Fresh off the Black is Back Coalition's successful November 5th and 6th, 2016 National Black Political Agenda for Self-Determination Convention in D.C., the chairman was in rare form. So there's some organization taking place right there. There's some organizing taking place. What are we doing? What is Israel doing? What kind of conferences are we engaging in? What kind of think tanks do we have? What kind of policy institutes for Torah do we have? Do you know of any? I know that we had tried to put forth a Torah Freedom Founded Federation that fell by the wayside. Nobody wanted to engage in that process. But we're talking about freedom and liberation. But nobody wants to do the hard work of organizing. No one wants to do the hard work of building an ideology. It just fell off. Others don't want to do it because it wasn't their idea. Too much pride and too much ego in Israel. It wasn't my idea, so I ain't got nothing to do with it. It wasn't me. We need unity, people. We don't need all these chiefs. Yahushua is our chief. We're his body. Fresh on, because we read that. The detailing how critical to the African nation a black agenda is in light of capitalism's crisis and decline. Somebody type in here, what's our agenda? If you know what the agenda of Israel is in this day and time, type it in, please. What is our agenda? Have we a defined agenda? And even if it's going home, yeah, that's a beautiful reality. But what then? What then? When we're home, what are we to do? What's the agenda there? What's part 2? What's the second step in that? After we go home, what's the agenda? What's the organizing plan? Let's talk about it then. Let's talk about how do we do that? We just have these overarching ideas. Let us put steps to these ideas. Let's define what it means to bring about the kingdom. Do we have the right components? Are we prepared? And that's a question we've always been asking. Are we prepared to put a government in place? Do we have a transatlantic minister? Do we have a minister of defense? Do we have an education secretary? Do we have these things? Are we prepared to put them into action? Because this is what is requiring. Indeed, and that's first and foremost. We should all be returned to Yah's Torah, but we need to understand an agenda. And I mean an agenda. Can someone, Mem70, if you don't mind, look up the word agenda and please type that in so we can go into what this means. An agenda. Matter of fact, let's just take a look at this here. Agenda. Okay? The first definition of agenda is this: a list of items to be discussed at a formal meeting. Literally, the things that must be done in Latin may refer to agenda, meeting, points to be discussed, sometimes refers to the list of topics. A list of topics. Okay? Is there any more definitions to that particular word there that you found? Okay, Toda Rabbah. I actually went to dictionary.com to get definition of agenda. But I'll go to Webster's. A list or outline of things to be considered or done. A list or outline of things to be considered or done. An underlying, often ideological plan or program. What kind of programs does Israel have? What kind of programs do we have right now in place to streamline our consciousness? To streamline our agenda? These are the questions that we got to ask ourselves. These are some hard-hitting questions that we need to truly sit down and wrestle with. Organize. If we're not meeting at least once a week in person or on the phone and setting some sort of agenda and some steps and some goals that we need to take to get this stuff accomplished, well, we're carrying out what's called a bunch of intellectual masturbation. We're not reproducing. We're just ejaculating for the sake of pleasure and not creating any real change. Going back to O'Malley Yeshitala and Toda Rabbah Moreh M70 for posting those definitions. An agenda. How critical to the African nation a black agenda, an Israelite agenda, is in light of capitalism's crisis and decline. Decline. So what's going to step up when they fall into oblivion? Chairman O'Malley expressed how the meeting was initially scheduled just to be a briefing, but subsequent to the outcome of the U.S. presidential election, it was in the best interest of the APSP, and Uhuru movement to speak to as many Africans and to as many supporters of the African Revolution as possible. Going on to accurately point out that Trump's election presents a bombshell of sorts to almost the entire bourgeoisie, to the entire ruling class, and to all the white left in this country, to an assortment of liberals, to many of the African people who refer to themselves as progressives. Well, what's progress if we find ourselves owning less land than we owned when we first were emancipated? What's progress if we have fewer black-owned businesses now as opposed to when we were emancipated? What's progressive about that? You got all these symbolic leaders in place with the, what's that called? The Democratic Black Congress, or the Congressional Black Congress. And they haven't progressed in anything. As a matter of fact, they regressed. They caused us as a people to regress. We went to sleep during the administration of Obama. An African population in general has been made terrified initially by the prospects of the election of Donald Trump. If you're afraid of Trump, then you have some problems. Now, our only fear should be Yah. we should be aware and we should know and be concerned. But fear, I wouldn't use that word personally. Excited, maybe. Okay? I'm going to say this about myself. And I'm not trying to be a martyr or anything. Please understand that. I have personally some circumstances that I have to reconcile with myself and my family, particularly my offspring, as relates to their safety in this matter. And I got to get it done, period. But, I went experiencing, I had to kind of calm myself down. I had some moments when I didn't even want to leave my house and go to work because of mounting fear. I live in Missouri, and we know Missouri's a redneck state. It's a red state through and through. And I had to drive to Independence. I got to go up north to, undoubtedly, as I can now, undoubtedly, this is the time. But I've come to understand clearly that, we cannot be fearful in these times. This is what Yah told all of his prophets and all of his servants. Be courageous and be not fearful. And this is what we need to understand no matter where we find ourselves. Because best believe when you go home to Israel, that there are things that can have you shook there as well. And if you have any inkling of fear in your heart, well, it will cripple you. It will cause you to freeze. Okay, so we need to understand that. And if African people globally are terrified, well, then that's exactly the plan that the enemy wants us to embrace. For us, that they have for us is terror, fear. Yep. We fear Yah. It says, fear not, Yahushua said, fear not the one who can destroy your body, but fear he who can destroy your body and cast your soul into Gehenna. That's what you fear. That's an agenda right there, Moreh Shebaniah, to fight. Okay? But we need to have clear lines of demarcation and lanes and roles. What's your role in this fight? Okay? This is what we need to understand. So now that this has occurred because of the inadequacies and the defections of large sectors of what is supposed to be black leadership in this country, many Africans feel that they don't have any response that could be made. They're silent now. I don't even know what to do. I can't even eat. I can't even sleep. I can't do nothing. Well, you're going to get swallowed whole. Many refer to Trump and Clinton as evil twins or twin evils. They are two sides of the same imperialist coin, no matter what the outcome of the election. Citing an overall fear of an election of Donald Trump by many Africans, the chairman forthrightly spoke, saying that the APSP is the only organization, now listen to this claim, the only organization that anticipated this outcome and the only organization that said it really doesn't make a difference if Trump or Clinton ended up being selected as the new U.S. president. We were saying that the whole time. Our platform is just not as large as Omali Yeshitala. So here's my question. What is the agenda to make our platform more broad and expansive? How are we going to go about doing that? We got outlets. We got a blog. And the blog is getting traffic. The blog is over 911,000 hits since 2011. So we average at least 600 hits a day on the blog. So it's out there. The talk show is starting to kind of, it hasn't really found a huge a niche yet. But to date, we have over 4,000 plays from our blog, and that's from June. So in just 5 months, we've garnered some momentum. But what can we do to make it more expansive, more broad? Can you all help in that? Can you all assist in that? Tell me this. Who in here is following Hebrew Vision Live on Spreaker.com? If you're following Hebrew Vision Live on Spreaker.com, give me a 1. I need all what we got in here. 36 people. I need for you to give me a 1 or 0 if you're following. If you're not following Hebrew Vision Live on Spreaker, put in a 0. If you are following Hebrew Vision Live on Spreaker, give me a 1. Because there's only 22 followers that we have in that particular on that particular matter. So, that being the case, you need to start sharing this. You need to go there and subscribe and then start sharing it. Expand it. And I asked for you all to subscribe a while ago. Not for my sake. This isn't for me. This is not for Brian Michael Long, Mikhail Korbanyahu. This is for you and the people. There's no prestige seeking here. We want to give Yah the esteem. Yah is to be esteemed. Continuing on. During the dynamic unfolding of the chairman's discourse, and I know, thank you all who did contribute to putting in 1s and 0s. That's just about half of you all that did that. Not even half, a third of you all. So the other third, you slipping. And this is what I'm talking about. This is the stuff that I'm talking about. We organizing. People don't participate. We don't participate. We want to reap everything, but we don't want to do jack. And this is the stuff that makes us continue to suffer. Nobody wants to do the work. You think you can just sit back and chill and reap the benefits of someone else's labor. That's trash. That's whack. That's soft and that's weak. So if you feel rebuked, you should feel rebuked and convicted, because this is the stuff that continually causes us to suffer. Nobody wants to do the work. All I asked you to do was push a 1 or 0. I got about 9 1s and 9 0s out of 36 people in this room. Pathetic. We need to be convicted of what we're saying that we're about as Israelites. But if that's something you can't even do on that level, well, then we can't expect you to do things on a larger level. Remember, the master told the servant, blessed are you. You've been faithful with little. Now you can be entrusted with much. We can't even be faithful with a little pushing of a 1 or 0. We can't even do that. And it's tiring. It's sickening. Come up to the microphone and speak. Nobody wants to speak. What? What's this about? How are we going to overcome if we're not participating in our overcoming? You think somebody's going to come out the sky and save you? Are you still thinking like a Christian? Not understanding you got to get your hands dirty and support your brother and your sister in this effort to be free? We got to sting ourselves into reality. We got to shock ourselves into reality. This ain't no doggone party that we just observe. You got to get engaged. During the dynamic unfolding of the chairman's discourse, he spoke of former Black Panther, the late Huey P. Newton's bestowal of the Black Liberation Movement legacy into the Uhuru movement. Picking up that mantle, Chairman O'Malley stressed how vital the Uhuru movement is to completing the African revolutionary movement, despite what happened to the movement of the 60s and to the traditional undemocratic electoral process of this capitalist country. He also touched on how the masses of people came out for Trump's and Clinton's Democratic Party rival Bernie Sanders as watershed moments. As Chairman Yeshitela so poignantly lamented, Trump's colonialist campaign slogan, Make America Great Again, was actually politically correct code speak for Make America White Again. You talking about the article, Adonai, or you talking about the website? Post what? Okay, there's the post right there. Subscribe, share it, make this platform much more broad and expanse. Contact me to come on the show and share what you see. We can discuss these things. It's a call-in show. No one calls in. I have only gotten one call in yet. We open up Spreaker. We open up Twitter. If I need to open up my phone and give you all my number to call in to get you on the show, please support your people. Support the movement. What is the deal? We got other rooms who are talking about UFOs and aliens that are in the hundreds. We got 36 people. In the 36 people we got, how many of you all are participating? How many 4s do we get? How many 1s and 0s do we get? About half at most. How many people come to the mic after the presentations and say what you got out of it or what you see? You may see something that we don't see. But how many people come up and share? Few. This is the website, Brother Adonai. So the chairman makes it plain in his influential book, An Easy on Equilibrium, The African Revolution versus Parasitic Capitalism. While things are bad in general within the U.S., the conditions for Africans can only be explained by our status as colonial subjects. The oppression continues just as starkly under the Obama regime as under any previous U.S. president. During his address, the chairman reiterated that Hillary Clinton offered us nothing, but only a continuation of what Obama did. And if you want more of that, you'd have to be insane. I'm not going to continue on. We're very aware of what is coming with Trump. We've been talking about it for a while. We knew it was coming either way. So what we need to do is organize, unite and organize. All right, that is our call. That is our cry. Unite and organize. I got 3 more articles left and then I'm done. 3 more short articles and I'm done with this particular offering. And then we can open the mic and see who can come up and share some stuff. You may have an article that we didn't touch on that is just as significant as anything that has been presented here. You may have an insight on one of the articles that have been presented that we didn't touch on that could completely blow the lid off of it and make us like, dang, I really see it now. But if you sitting there quiet and not wanting to participate and be interdependent and help me as I desire to help you, well, then we're never going to make any progress. And what we need to understand next, according to this article from the Modern Ghana, is that peace is not the absence of war. It's not the absence of war. Just because we have peace doesn't mean that there's some sort of conflict that's going on to maintain that peace. When you access this article, please give me a 4. This is by Eddie Owusu-Afram. He says, you may call me an alarmist and a pessimist, but that would not prevent me from echoing out the Most High's decree to me to warn the children of Ghana of the impending danger soon to engulf our country. Whoa, what? You're telling me there's prophets in Ghana saying that the country of Ghana, to which many African Americans are seeking to go and repatriate to, has impending danger coming soon to engulf their country? He says the people are singing peace, laughing peace, eating peace, praying peace, playing peace, matches and multiplying peace before, during, and after the December 7 elections, but the Bible says otherwise. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 verse 3 warns, while people are saying there is peace and security, then sudden destruction will come upon them as labor pains come upon a pregnant woman, and they will not escape. So how could one person stand out boldly to castigate peace when the rest of the people are so much involved in calling for peace before, during, and after the December 7th election? Oh, but just give Trump a chance in America. Black folks, as your boy Dave Chappelle said, let's just give him a chance. To lynch us? Exactly, and they will not escape, it said. Isn't the voice of the people the voice of the Most High? Isn't the voice of the people the voice of the Most High? This is what we need to understand. The leader is the party is the leader. Yah is in us, and he speaks through us. Now unite and organize that. Where does the Most High stand in our quest for peace in Ghana? Excuse me, I'm sorry. Let me mute this stuff. I don't know where this sound is coming from at all. That is hilarious. Little musical interlude. Is y'all really concerned with Ghana's electoral process? So this is what's so deep about this article. This is a global scenario. We're dealing with this globally, politically. It's geopolitical reality. It's not just in America. It's not just in Ghana. We're talking about everywhere you find us here. We're dealing with some other political system. We're not dealing with y'all system. And when we're not dealing with y'all system, we become sheep without a shepherd. And when we don't have a shepherd, we become prey to the lurking wolves and the bears and the lions that are roaming, seeking whomever they may devour. So where are the big and the influential prophets, pastors, reverends, when the Most High has chosen an ordinary man like me to oppose the status quo? When you deal with everybody in this room that does speak, we're ordinary folks. We don't have any significant degrees of anything. I only have a bachelor's. But that don't mean nothing if I'm not trumpeting Yah's word. And I'm just an ordinary cat, just like everybody in this room. But we are the ones who are proclaiming Yah's word in spirit and in truth. The scripture is replete with examples of Yah picking the weak and base things to confound the mighty in the flesh. Jeremiah, often called the weeping prophet, stood out to prophesy of the doom of the kingdom of Judah faced in 627 BC when King Josiah reigned. At the time that all the known big prophets preached peace, you got preachers who are lining up with Trump, praying for this man. For real? They preach peace that King Nebuchadnezzar and his army will not come against Judah. Yah put his truth in Jeremiah to inform King Josiah that the Babylonian army will conquer Judah and Jerusalem and carry the inhabitants into captivity. It did happen in 586 BC when Jerusalem was destroyed totally. All the good prophets prophesied favorable news to King Josiah, and they were rewarded. Jeremiah was even slapped by one of the prophets and later imprisoned by King Josiah. But it came to pass that Yah's word became the truth. Yah won through Yirmiyahu. Having finished with Jeremiah, I again come to peace in our time. The world was deceived by the warmonger Adolf Hitler of Nazi Germany when he signed a so-called peace agreement with the then leaders of the free world in 1938 in Munich. He was Time's Man of the Year. Hitler was. Before he went on his ravenous bloodlust of destruction. Lord Chamberlain, the then British Prime Minister, upon exiting from the plane at London Airport in September of 1938, waved the agreement paper to the enthusiastic British people saying, "Peace in our time, peace in our time." The only voice that cried in the wilderness to warn the world of Hitler's insincerity was another killer himself, Mr. Winston Churchill, then the First Lord of the Admiralty. A year after the Munich Peace Agreement, Hitler on 3rd September of 1939 invaded Poland, which at that time had a military pact both with Britain and France. That was the beginning of World War II. Mr. Churchill was vindicated. He was in no time called to take the premiership from Lord Chamberlain, and it was he who steered British Empire through the war for victory to be won by the Allies. Has the world seen peace since the end of World War II? Resoundingly no. The world is still going through various forms of war, despite the United Nations drawing inspirations from Isaiah chapter 2, verse 4. Wrong place, wrong people. The United Nations is the wrong place, and it's involving the wrong people. Peace in our time? No. What did Yahushua say about peace? Matthew 10, verse 34. Do not think that I come to bring peace to the earth. I have not come to bring peace, but a sword. Here, the sword represents the gun of bullets in our modern times. Since Ghana went through the dreaded revolution of J.J. Rawlings in December 31st of 1981, Ghana is awash with illegal weapons that have become a worry to all and sundry. And reports making rounds say that some weapons have been brought into the country clandestinely by some faceless people to fortify themselves against any possibility of the December 7 elections going haywire. Keep your eye out on Ghana this upcoming month, on December 7 with their elections as well. And see what results there. Ghanaians are witnessing elections going haywire in various countries around us, and what the weapons are being used for in these conflicts gives much food for thought. Verse 35 of chapter 10 of Matthew spells out, who are they who are at the receiving ends for this conflict? For I have come to set a man against his father, and a daughter against her mother, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. And I'm dealing with a lot of family turmoil right now. I mean, beef almost, spiritually. And we got to really see this for what it is and understand it's not literally your flesh and blood that you're wrestling with. Scripture tells us we're wrestling against principalities. We're wrestling against spiritual forces of darkness, okay? Wickedness in high places is what it tells us that we're dealing with. We are vessels, people. Our vessels are conduits. These conduits receive energy. That energy is either positive from Yah or negative from the enemy. It's either light or it's either darkness. There's no mixture. What fellowship has light with darkness? So when you look at the fruit of individuals and you see if they're not in Torah, but they're talking all this religious stuff, well, thank you. I've spotted you. I've marked you. And you've revealed yourself. And we act accordingly. Continuing on, what can be so perfect of a situation than in political upheaval where people in a household belong to all political parties to cast suspicions on each other? The argument preferred is that Ghana is a Christian country and therefore never will Yah allow a calamity to hit her, just like America thinks. But can one be holier than the Pope? Undoubtedly. Can Ghana be holier than Israel, which Yah saw it fit to cause King Nebuchadnezzar to invade and conquer it for their sins? The fact that Yah has not allowed a calamity of a civil war to ravage Ghana does not mean that Yah will countenance the evil that we do in the land. Israel and Judah were sent into captivity by the Most High because of the evil the people did in corruption, injustices, homosexuality, ritual killings, and all manner of wickedness which Yah used the prophets to preach against. Same thing in America, people. Same thing. Is Ghana not in the very category of sin as it happened with Yah's own nation, Israel? Yes, Ghana is a sinful nation, and like Israel, Yah has weighed us in the spiritual pan, and it is now the handwriting on the wall. Mine, tekel, parsim. You have been weighed and found lacking, is what that means. Yah has washed his hands off the Christian Ghana, so you know where America lies, and has removed the shelter that has protected the people since independence. Why should there be a cry for peace in these elections to choose a leader? Who does Yah want to be the president of Ghana, and by what party? Does Yah himself get involved in politics and elections in Africa? Well, I know that Daniel told Nebuchadnezzar, Yah is sovereign in the affairs of men. But he also allows these kingdoms to raise and rise up for his sovereign purposes, his providential purposes, to sift out. Okay? Yah is indeed concerned with all nations on this earth ever since he scattered men from buildings the Tower of Babel to reach his heavenly abode. It was Yah who led a remnant of the Egyptians when the empire broke to a place right at the center of the earth. Ghana is right at the center of the earth. The Greenwich meridian or longitude 0 degree passes through Ghana, while the equator or latitude 0 degree lies 350 nautical miles under us. It is Yah's guiding hand that brought us to be a part of the earth that abounds in every mineral and resources. Before the continents broke up and began drifting from Africa, Ghana was Canaan, was exactly at the center of the earth. Kana or Ghana, because that G and that K are interchangeable cognitively, descended from Mizraim or Egypt, who was one of the 4 children of Ham, the black son of Noah, alongside with Cush, Put, and Canaan. It was in Egypt that the patriarch Abraham of the Shem tribe visited and had Hagar as a slave when Sarah was taken for a wife by Pharaoh. Again, it was in Egypt that Joseph served as a slave to Potiphar when his brothers sold him. Joseph rose to become the second in command to the Pharaoh and was given Asenath, the daughter of the priest of On, as wife. It was by design that Joseph's first 2 sons, Menashe and Ephraim, they were black, as all Israel is, were joined to the 11 sons of Yaakov to become the 12 children of Israel, minus Joseph. Again, Yahushua, at the tender age, was taken to Mitzrayim for safety when Herod the Edomite wanted to kill him. So having become a nation, Ghana in the modern times, Ghana, the former Egypt, had played host to 3 presidents of the United States of America, namely President Clinton, President Bush, and President Obama. Let's see what we got here. Now we know why most of these Negropeans ain't on top of things. They've been sifted out. Wow, yup. It's all bad. But as much as the Most High had loved Ghana, the first black nation south of the Sahara to gain independence from Britain, we are still involved in idolatry, witchcraft, homosexuality, false religion, ritual murders, and a host of sins against the Most High. So now is the time for the Most High to deal with us without showing any mercy to our cry. He is going to use this December 7 elections to put us in judgment as part of his worldwide condemnations of all nations. So here we go, Israel. What can we say about Trump then? Can you see judgment coming to the wicked, to those who are still found within its borders, who are Israelites? What is about to happen is recorded in the book of Isaiah chapter 19. From verse 1, it says, an oracle concerning Egypt. Kana, behold, Yah is riding on a swift cloud and comes to Egypt. And the idols of Egypt will tremble at his presence, and the heart of the Egyptians will melt within. Very much so, global. Now, to those who think it is going to be a peaceful election, must read on to verse 2. And I will stir up Egyptians against Egyptians, and they will fight each other, okay? And against his neighbor, city against city, kingdom against kingdom. Verse 3, and the spirit of the Egyptians within them will be emptied out. Now we will ask, how can ancient Egypt become a modern Ghana or Kana? So this is the same thing with America. America is also known as Egypt spiritually. The truth is that what most historians will not ignore is that the black star on our national flag featured prominently in ancient Egypt as one of the symbols of satanic worships. Ancient Egypt was the cradle of civilization and Satanism. Nobody wants to deal with that. Those Kemetic people don't want to deal with that. Most of these cults and devil worships can be found in the way we hold royal funerals for the dead. The Egyptian Book of the Dead, or the Book of Coming Forth by Day into the Light, is what they want to call it, which is a funerary text. It's not for the living, it's for the dead. Attest to this phenomenon. The world in its present civilization has come to an end, and Mashiach Yahushua and the Creator will soon descend to destroy all nations. Ghana, our beloved country, is not an exception. The December 7 elections is our last election to contest for a president. Will there be a winner? Will President John Mahama relinquish the presidential seat should he lose? And what will Nana Akufo-Addo and the NPP do should they be denied the victory? Will the Electoral Commission play fair? Do you see how this is all global, people? This is a global phenomenon taking place now because this is all preparing the world. According to Albert Pike, Giuseppe Mazzini, Lord Palmerston, and Otto von Bismarck, to usher in the unadulterated religion of Lucifer. This is what all this is about. But that is to set up the judgment of Yah. Will there be peace as being prayed for by the people, or will there be a civil war as prophesied in Isaiah 19? Shabbat shalom and welcome to all who recently entered the room. We're finishing this article up here. A change indeed is coming, not only to Ghana, but the world at large. This change will not come by a mortal man, but by the Son of the Most High, Yahushua Mashiach of Nazareth, at his second coming. Revelation chapter 22, verses 12 says, Behold, I am coming soon, bringing my recompense with me to repay everyone for what he has done. The everyone represents the ballot snatcher, election riggers, the policeman or soldier used to intimidate the unarmed civilian, the spiritualist who performs rituals for politicians, inauguration, the augurs, the returning officer who falsifies results, the voter who casts double votes, the biased peace council member, the abusive party communicator, the media practitioner who publishes false information, the bribing politician, the false prophets, and those who are and continue to drive Mother Ghana into a socio-political and economic crisis. Where will you be when the master comes? Verse 14 of Revelation chapter 22 says, Blessed are those who wash their robes so that they may have the right to the tree of life and that they may enter the city by the gates. Verse 15 says, Outside are the dogs and sorcerers and the idolaters, the ballot box snatcher, the vote rigger, the multiple voter, the biased peace council member, the abusive party communicator, the government official who stole money, the biased media practitioner, the police or soldier who acted unwisely, and everyone who loves and practices falsehood. Know that Yahushua HaMashiach is not going to be voted into power, and the result declared by an electoral commissioner. He is Aleph and Taw, the owner of this earth and the universe. The book of Romans chapter 9 verse 28 seals his authority. For Yah will carry out his sentence upon the earth fully and without delay. It is only in Yah's kingdom on this earth here that there will be real and unadulterated peace. It is going to be the darkest hour before the dawn. The darkest hour Ghana is going through with corrupted people is soon to change into an everlasting peace. But for now, I see Mother Ghana with her body smeared with the blood of her children. This is not just an American phenomenon, people. This is not just an American phenomenon. This is all part of a greater global construct, of a global agenda to usher in Lucifer's kingdom so that Yah and his people will not prevail. This is what this is all about. Let me share this here, going to modern Ghana again. This is what it comes down to. Leaders who organize. I have one article after this. This article is entitled, Allow People to Know You So That They Can Trust and Follow You. This is crucial. People don't trust Trump. Alt-right don't even trust Trump. They say we got to hold him accountable to us. Yahushua can be trusted because he's faithful. Can you be trusted in your leadership role that you may play in our agenda? Or are you a loose cannon? Yeah, Trump don't even trust Trump. That's funny, Zakanyona. It's probably real, though. That's probably real. But let's get this article here. Give me a 4 when you access it. I'm going to go ahead and start reading it. Are you a leader? Then you must allow people to know you as you really are. Indeed, after I'm done, I got one more article out on Naya. You're more than welcome to come to the mic. We welcome that. Nobody wants to follow a mystery. A mystery speaks of the unknown. A mysterious person smacks of something foreboding. Who wants to follow a mysterious person into a dark valley where something bad may happen to him? Let me tell you an important secret about leadership, about organizing. The more open you are, the more readily people will follow your leadership. I did not say that the more perfect you are, the more people will follow you. No, the more open you are, the more readily people will follow your leadership. Everyone knows that his neighbor is not perfect. It's no secret that there is no perfect person on earth.
Someone who is open and honest about his weaknesses is more likely to have a following. Let the people know that you're real. Everybody will readily follow a genuine leader. If you are a pastor, let the people know that you're real. Everybody will readily follow a genuine leader. If you're a corporate leader, let the people know you're real. They will follow a genuine leader. If you're a school principal, let your teachers and students know that you're real. They will all follow a genuine leader. Look at what John the Apostle said of Yahushua, his leader. That which was from the beginning, which we have heard, which we have seen with our eyes, which we have looked upon, and our hands have handled, of the word of life. For the life was manifested, and we have seen it, and bear witness, and show unto you that eternal life, which was with the Father, and was manifested to us. 1 John 1, 1 and 2. Why did Yahushua come into the world? He came so that we would know him and trust him. Trust is crucial when it comes to unity. If we don't trust one another, how can we be united? If we don't know one another, how can we go on the way? These are things that we got to understand. That's why he allowed us to hear him, see him, and touch him. Does anyone have the chance to hear you, see you, or handle you? Or are you a mysterious Superman who has no faults? You will be amazed to know how openness produces a great following. Influence people by example. Who in the days of his flesh, when he had offered up prayers and supplications with strong crying and tears unto him that was able to save him from death, and was heard in that he feared. Hebrews 5:7. But we will give ourselves continually to prayer and to the ministry of the word. Acts 6:4. You may wonder why I've quoted the above scriptures. What is the correlation between them? The first one speaks about Yahushua's prayer life while he was on earth. The second one speaks of Peter's prayer life after Yahushua left. Yahushua taught his disciples to pray by example. Peter was influenced by Yahushua's prayer life. Yahushua had already been taken up when Peter made this pronouncement. We will give ourselves continually to prayer, not intermittently, continually, into the ministry of the word, to delivering this word. His leader was gone, but the influence of Yahushua on him was so great that he had resolved to do what he learned when his leader was around. Many years ago, I heard a man advising me to listen to what the priest said, but not to follow his example. How strange. It's very difficult to follow somebody's words and not his example. There was an old Chinese proverb printed in the physiology laboratory in my former medical school. It said, I hear and I forget. I see and I remember. I do and I understand. That is powerful. I hear and I forget. I see and I remember. I do and I understand. This is all about, again, being the testimony. Not giving a testimony, being a testimony, and the living letters which Yah has written in our hearts. That's what this is about. This proverb tells us all about the power of influencing people through what they see. You never forget what you see. Did you know that you only retain about 11% of what you hear? Yahushua did not only teach about prayer, he acted prayer. He lived prayer. That is why Kepha, or Peter, was so determined not to be distracted from his prayer life. Many ministers today do not know the importance of prayer. They have never lived with someone who prayed. They have never seen it acted out. Remember that your example is more important than your words. Remember also that when people know you and are ready to follow you, you are then in the best position to influence them by your example. This influence can be so strong that it will persist whether you are present with them or absent from them. That is fruitful leadership. Dear friend, do you want to be a leader? Please remember that your example is more important than your words. Very much Selah. That is a crucial article as relates to our uniting and organizing. Because all of us are leaders. The leader is the party is the leader. I hate borrowing from Hitler, but there was wisdom in what he was saying, and there was truth in that. But we don't even learn. We don't even want to keep Yah's word. Prayerfully, we'll make some changes. Very much so. He was effective. He was effective. Now, this is entitled Parsha Chayei Sarah. This is some reflections I wrote, I want to say in 2012, about this week's portion. I think it was 2012. And it's about being a servant. And it focuses on someone who really has not received due notice or due attention. And we'll get into who that is. Yeah, that was 2012 that this article was written. All right. It starts out quoting from Matthew 7, which is the messianic portion from this. Oh, he very much knew who the Negro was, Imam Kadosha. Yes, indeed. But it says, not everyone who says to me, Master, Master, shall enter into the reign of the heavens, but he who is doing the will of my Father in the heavens. Matthew 7:21. Eleazar, Abraham's faithful servant. Now, this is crucial to understand because in this chapter, Eleazar plays a prominent role. But we don't focus on Eleazar. Eleazar is just like kind of brushed under the rug because he's just an intermediary to finding the next patriarch's wife to continue the legacy for the promised seed. Eleazar just kind of brushed aside like, man, whatever. You Eleazar, who's Eleazar? Who is this? I don't even know who this servant is. And so he's lost. If I can be hurt, give me a 1. Exactly, Moray M70. Exactly. So we're going to get into that. Here we go. My last offering. In many of the stories that we read in Scripture, there are often personalities that we merely glance at and don't take time to truly examine their lives in light of who they are and their role. Remember, everybody has a role to play in the unfolding of the plan of redemption Yah has revealed through his covenant people, Israel. Very crucial, Uzziah. He transitioned from Nimrod to Abraham, from Babylon to Zion. One such person is Abraham's oldest and most trusted servant, Eleazar. Only mentioned by name in Scripture once at Genesis 15:2, Eleazar was the chief and senior servant in Abraham's tent. As such, Eleazar was often entrusted with a considerable amount of power and responsibility. At one time, he was even in the running to be the heir of Abraham's reward that Yah had promised his offspring after Abraham's defeat of the Elamite king, Kedorlaomer, and his confederacy of kings. Being that Eleazar is also understood to have accompanied Abraham as one of the 318 trained men born in his house who went with him in his campaign to rescue his nephew from being abducted by the disgruntled kings, Eleazar had come to believe that Abraham would designate him as his heir. Now, I say born in his house spiritually, okay? Because we know Abraham did not have a physical seed until Ishmael. But he bore people spiritually. He saw his seed take root, his word take root, Yah's word take root in their life. And gestate, and then bear fruit. This is attested to in the apocryphal book of Jasher, as far as him saying that I'm going to be the heir, which records the following conversation over the inheritance of Abraham between Ishmael, his firstborn son, and Eleazar. Quote, and Ishmael said to Eleazar, now my father Abraham is going with Isaac to bring him up for a burnt offering to Yah, as he commanded him. Now when he returns, he will give unto me all that he possesses to inherit after him, for I am his firstborn son. And we know that this week says Abraham gave all to Isaac. So Eleazar answered Ishmael and said, man, look, surely Abraham did cast you away with your mother. I mean, that's just like a low blow. And swear that you should not inherit anything of all he possesses. And to whom will he give all that he has with all his treasures? But unto me, his servant, who has been faithful in his house, who has served him night and day, and has done all that he desired me. To me will he bequeath at his death all that he possesses. That's from Jasher 23, verses 22 to 24. In traditional rabbinic literature, it is said that Abraham had acquired Eleazar from Nimrod while he was still living in Chaldea. Eleazar is also credited with revealing Nimrod's plot to kill Abraham because of the spiritual reform that he was engaged in, challenging the rampant idolatry and immorality that Nimrod had established within his kingdom of ancient Babylon. Seemingly a man of integrity and loyalty by nature, an interesting verse from Genesis 12:5 alludes to the refined and pristine character of Eleazar, which reads, "And Abram took Sarai his wife and Lot his brother's son, and all their possessions that they had gathered, and the beings whom they had acquired," key verse right there, key sentence, "in Haran. And they set out for the land of Canaan, and they came to the land of Canaan." The commentators of the United Synagogue of Conservative Judaism provide a profound insight into this verse, uncovering one of the most important roles that a master is to take in grooming his servants. In the Etz Chaim Chumash, the Tree of Life Torah and commentary, they say that the phrase "the persons that they had acquired" actually means the persons they had made. They made people. How you do that? You form them spiritually. The Midrash understands this anachronistically as referring to converts whom they had led to belief in the one true Elohim. For that reason, when converts to Judaism are given a Hebrew name, they are called son or daughter of Abraham and Sarah. According to the sages, one who brings a person to the Torah is regarded as have given birth to him or her. The Babylonian Talmud further provides insights into the trustworthy and selfless nature of Eleazar. It is said of this remarkable servant that he had come to emulate, as M70 was just saying, all the virtues and learning of his master, and that he also resembled Abraham in features so closely that when he had arrived in Aram Naharayim to procure a wife for Isaac amongst Abraham's relatives, Laban believed him to be a kinsman. Of this, the Talmud states, Eleazar, the servant of Abraham, was an elder and a member of the scholars' council, as it is said, and Abraham said to his servant, the elder of his house, that ruled over all he had, which Rabbi Eleazar explained to mean that he knew and controlled the Torah of his master. Eleazar of Damascus, Rabbi Eleazar said, he was so called because he drew and gave drink to others of his master's teachings. Crucial. It is when Eleazar arrives in Haran that we best see the light of Mashiach shining brightest in this little mentioned scriptural character. When Abraham commissioned him with the responsibility to find his true heir a wife so that the promise made to him by Yah would pass on to his descendants, Abraham has Eleazar swear by Yah for him not to take a wife for Isaac from the daughters of the Canaanites. Abraham also promised Eleazar that either upon finding his son a wife, or if she refused to follow him, he would be released from his obligation. After Eleazar agreed and swore to his master concerning the matter, the Torah records the following occurrence. And the servant took 10 of his master's camels and left, for all his master's good gifts were in his hand. And he arose and went to Aram Naharayim, to the city of Nahor. And he made his camels kneel down outside the city by a fountain of water at evening time, the time when women go out to draw water. And he said, Yah, Elohim of my master Abraham, please cause her to meet before me this day and show loving commitment to my master Abraham. Just selfless. Because he could have been infuriated that Isaac was now going to be the heir after he had come to understand that I'm going to be the heir. He could have completely defected from the faith and from Abraham's master as his master. He says, see, I'm standing here by the fountain of water, and the daughters of the men of the city are coming out to draw water. Now let it be that the young woman to whom I say, please let down your jar to let me drink, she says, drink, and let me water your camels too. Let her be the one whom you have appointed for your servant Isaac. And let me know by this that you have shown loving commitment to my master. In this prayer, we are able to fully see the absolute selflessness of Eleazar. His faithfulness to his master and the commandment that Abraham had given him was his main focus, as he had completely removed himself from the equation so that he would be successful in carrying out the order that Abraham had given him. Crucial. Remove yourself and let Yah use you. I imagine that though he was aware that there was a reward for his service, Eleazar had grown so accustomed to serving Abraham, who was a righteous and loving master, that it had become his pleasure to meet the needs and requests of his most kind and compassionate master. In addition to this, as Abraham had instructed Eleazar and his entire household in the ways of Torah, it is clear that Eleazar was more than familiar with the custom of seeking the guidance of Yah in his endeavors. As was pointed out earlier in the article, how the Talmud stated Eleazar reflected the virtues and learning of Abraham, we can say that Eleazar had been made in the image and likeness of Abraham, who in turn was a figure and type of Messiah unto his servant. This is what Shaul of Tarsus speaks of when he says, because those whom he foreknew, those who he knew beforehand, he also ordained to be conformed into the image of his son, in the likeness of his son, for him to be the firstborn among many brothers. Romans 8:29. As the story of Eleazar and Haran continues, we are further exposed to his personal devotion and reverence for the Almighty and his master Abraham, as the Torah goes on to say, and it came to be, when the camels had finished drinking, that the man took a golden nose ring weighing a half a shekel, and 2 bracelets for her wrists weighing 10 shekels of gold, and said, whose daughter are you? Please inform me, is there room in your father's house for us to spend the night? And she said to him, we have both straw and fodder enough and room to spend the night. And then the man bowed down his head and worshiped Yah. And he said, blessed be Yah, Elohim of my master Abraham, who has not forsaken his loving commitment and his truth toward my master. As for me, being on the way, Yah has led me to the house of my master's brothers. Truly, Eleazar's faithfulness, selflessness, and trustworthiness as relates to his master's affairs and belongings are worthy of recognition and study. His thoughts, words, and deeds are reflective of a man dedicated to willingly carrying out the orders of one who has power over him. It would behoove us to not take into account the life of Eleazar, the servant of Abraham, as we seek to please our master Messiah Yahushua, who is the master of all flesh and spirits. But it is our purpose to also reflect the image and likeness in which we were created, a similitude and visage that is exactly embodied in our master Messiah Yahushua, which we will come to reflect through diligent study and observance of Torah, as it is written, for Messiah is the goal of the Torah unto righteousness to everyone who believes. Romans 10:4. Though this portion of Torah is named for the great matriarch of our faith, Sarah Imotenu, our mother, the servant Eleazar actually claims the feature role in the redemptive plan by selflessly discovering the matrix for the next generation of Abraham's seed that would eventually lead to the birth of Yahushua ben Yosef HaMashiach, our kinsman redeemer. As servants of our master, let us learn from our patriarch Abraham's most trusted and devoted servant, and strive to be faithful, trustworthy, and selfless in all our ways. For there will come a certain time when Yahushua will return and reward every soul on account of their deeds. Therefore, let us seek to follow our master's commands and remain obedient. For it is written that many will say to me in that day, Master, Master, have we not prophesied in your name and cast out demons in your name and done many mighty works in your name? And then I shall declare to them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you who work lawlessness. Therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and does them shall be like a wise man who built his house on the rock. And the rain came down, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat on that house. And it did not fall, for it was founded on the rock. And everyone who hears these words of mine and does not do them shall be like a foolish man who built his house on the sand. And the rain came down, and the floods came, and the winds blew, and they beat on that house, and it fell. And great was its fall. Selah. In conclusion, as we are on the precipice of a truly monumental and apocalyptic day. It is imperative that we organize now to overcome. So, as leaders, as members of the body of Mashiach, we must become selfless. We must become trustworthy and faithful in all that we do, in uniting to serve the people and to bring forth Yah's kingdom. Because this is what this comes down to. We, as first servants of Yah, are called to serve the people. And the people are starving for righteousness, truth, justice, compassion, love. They're starving for these principles. And no one is delivering because no one knows what it is but the children of Israel who know who the true and living Elohim is. And we are the ones who are called to make this reality manifest. However, we have to be engaged in that process. We have to be working. Let us turn to the book of Genesis right quick. I want to go to the 3rd chapter. I want to look at I believe 14 through 17. No, 17 through 19. Genesis 3, I believe, verses 17 through 19. This is the curse to Adam. And to the man, Todah Rabbah, he said, because you have listened to the voice of your wife, and have eaten of the tree of which I commanded you, saying, do not eat of it. Cursed is the ground because of you. In toil, pause right there. And you can put the last verse up. In toil, you are to eat of it all the days of your life. In toil. There is some labor that we have to put out in order to eat the plants of the field, which is where life is given. And the ground shall bring forth thorns and thistles for you, and you shall eat the plants of the field. By the sweat of your face you are to eat bread, manna, until you return to the ground. For out of it you were taken, for dust you are, and to dust you return. This is all of Adam's progeny's curse and burden to work, to bring forth fruit, and to eat the bread of life, to labor, to have sweat come from your brow. This is not a walk in the park. This is a dirty, laborious, painful, challenging walk that we have to undergo. And if we are not organized and ordered according to the Torah and united in spirit and truth, well, we won't be a part of this kingdom that's coming. Where is our agenda? Where is our agenda as Israel? Do we have anything? M70 said in a few weeks it's going to come. And we needed it yesterday, I would argue. And we need to be engaged in this process. We cannot sit back and think that this is going to happen without our engagement. We need to be engaged in this process. Right, put your shoes on and walk. If it does not relate to the kingdom, set it aside. If it's not related to your people, set it aside. This is a very critical hour in which we are finding ourselves, and we have to be engaged in this process, particularly inspiring and educating and edifying our children. For they are the ones who will have to be responsible for making sure our future is secure. And that's something that the devil Hitler well understood. And it's something that the alt-right understands. It's something that even Donald Trump understands. He had his youngest son standing on the platform with him when he made his victory speech. He was standing there looking crazy as he wanted to look, the little boy. But Trump understands this is the future. So I pray that we understand as well. I want to thank you all for being patient. And there he was done. But I want to thank you all for being patient and being engaged in our offerings and the readings of the Torah here in Hebrew Vision. I pray that the words that Yah gave me to deliver to you and the articles and the information have been to your edification and to your encouragement and to your inspiration. And I don't want to apologize for any of the stinging words that I gave earlier about lack of participation. I meant that. So I'm not sorry about that. But, we need fire lit up under us, because I get fire lit up under me quite often. Mostly, consistently from my wife, of course. But Moraim 70 is very good at keeping the fire up under my socket and keeping me mindful of what's going on and where I need to be. So Todah Rabbah for that, Moraim 70. I hear you loud and clear, my brother, and I love you, and I thank you for that fire that you continue to light. And it's not heedless. Please understand, it's not heedless at all. But I just want to say Todah Rabbah. But I do want to close with a Hati Kaddish. Brother Adonai, I did see that you wanted to come to the mic. Got your hand up, beautiful. So I'm going to go ahead and close out with this Kaddish, and then it's your mic, beloved. Here we go. Yitkadal v'yikadesh shemei robah. V'yamadi barak yerutei v'yimelech malchutei. V'chayechunu v'yamichunu v'chayeda kol beit Yisrael b'galav v'zman kari v'miru. Amen. Yehei shmei rabba mavorach le'olam ulmei amaya. Yitbarak v'yishtabach v'yipar v'yiroman v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitalei v'yitalal shemei dekudisha. Berechu. V'ela min kol barakata v'ashirata. Tush bechata v'nechmata. Damiran Ba'ama B'Shem Mashiach Yehoshua Baruch Hashem Hallelujah. Limeru. Amen. Shabbat Shalom. One love.